Hi, I'm John Block, and this weekend we have seen the movie Unplanned hit theaters. And this movie is so important because it goes into all the different aspects of the abortion industry and what happens behind the scenes that many of us may not be privy to. And this comes from Abby Johnson, a former Planned Parenthood worker, and she recounts her time there, 8 years, in an abortion clinic in Texas, where she has not really seen an abortion until late in the game, where she's forced to be helping out with an abortion because it's short-staffed and something happens. So I have these movie reviews here, and these are from Variety, The Guardian, and then the Federalist. And we will see exactly what they're saying about this film, and I'll tell you, it's quite biased. Because here in the Variety piece, let's just say, this is probably the tamer of the liberal ones. I'm sure you can guess which ones are more radical. But this one goes into distinct detail because it says, it's written by Owen O. Lieberman, I believe his name is, and I guess he's the chief film critic at Variety. And he writes here, the notion that abortion in America would end if only those provided them experienced a leap of conscience is nothing more than a canard, a fig leaf for the film's real agenda. So it's saying that this doesn't really give real solutions and real answers, but I don't think they understand the purpose of this film, which is meant to enlighten people from a perspective that we haven't seen before. This year, we saw the movie Gosnell about the radical Philadelphia abortionist, and that movie really went into more gore and horror, and coincidentally, that film was rated PG-13, where this one is rated R. And you really understand that why are they talking about the ratings being R, why are they PG-13, and it stands to reason that abortion is a rated R topic. Abortion is not a good thing. Abortion is bad, and I'm glad that the industry is seeing how terrible and disgusting it is, because now they are going back and they're saying, well, yeah, this is a rated R film because coincidentally it has R-rated material because it's evil. It's evil material. But the thing is, the R rating, usually they give a rating like that to something that has nudity or violence, and this really just goes into a medical procedure which is offered by Planned Parenthood and abortionists across the country, so it's simply just talking about something that's happening behind the scenes, behind closed doors, and if these people want to be so happy and so proud to shout their abortion, why is it that they don't want this to come to light, this movie that showcases what's behind the curtain? And that's one of the big aspects of this film that is so important. So also in this review, he says, the movie fuses melodramatic manipulation and cold calculation. It may look like it's preaching, but it's really campaigning. And he's talking about Roe v. Wade and the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the subsequent months, hopefully by the Supreme Court. And he's saying that this is just a propaganda piece. This is what this piece is called. It's called The Memoir of a Planned Parenthood Worker Turned into Anti-Abortion Activist. Isn't good drama, but it's effective propaganda if you're part of the choir. So obviously this is a hit piece on this beautiful film. And evidently, this guy doesn't seem like he really understands the purpose, but he also talks about the person that is the antagonist in the film, Cheryl, and she's the abortion, she's her supervisor in Houston, and she is like this Cruella de Vil witch, and I guess that's what he writes here, and that's pretty accurate. And he says that Cheryl's disasterly motivation, she's loathing to do anything that could help the other side, wouldn't be there in the first place if the legal right to abortion weren't on such thin ice. And this is in regard to a scene in the movie where a young girl is brought in by her father because she needs an abortion, and she is going through complications. And Cheryl in the film, I'm not going to ruin it, but there's a scene where something happens and it's not necessarily a very good thing that happens behind the scenes. And he's saying, well, if abortion was not stigmatized as much, then the world would be such a beautiful place with roses and unicorns and rainbows and glitter. But at the end of the day, abortion's abortion, and it's a killing of the human being in the womb. And it's good that this film showcases the images of children who are fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their well-being. And this film is so important because it goes into the dirty, disgusting facts that we need to really showcase to the world if we want to be effective. So he goes on to say, there is no arguing that this point of view and that the whole problem with it and the movie Unplanned views humanity itself in black and white. Views humanity itself in black and white. And I'd say good. Good. I'm glad that this film is showcased in black and white, that it's life or death, because that's the very truth of it all, isn't it? Life or death. If you want to say that a human being that is potentially going to become a child outside of the womb and inside of the womb, what's the cutoff, right? What's the cutoff for that baby? So really, you got to look into where the motivation is coming from behind these radical leftists that are writing these reviews. And it's obviously with a penchant to hurt the pro-life image, but at the end of the day, they just look more callous by calling life not important and by trying to disintegrate it into such a minuscule issue, which it's not. So next we have, this is my favorite one, The Guardian, and this Guardian piece is called Unplanned Review. The anti-abortion propaganda is a gory mess. All right, well, that's what it says here. It's a gory mess, and I highlighted a bunch of this, so we're just gonna get right into it. It's by this guy named Jordan Hoffman, and he writes for The Guardian, and he does movie criticisms of many kinds for other movies. Like he did a bad one for Dinesh D'Souza's film that just came out. And this one, it says, it's laughable that in the movie they talk about George Soros funding abortion. He says, oh, it's laughable, it's stupid. So that's one thing that he talks about. But he really just goes on and says, like, it's too gory. He doesn't say anything about it being unrealistic. The thing is, these films, they never say anything about it being unrealistic. But here he says, despite the many ghastly scenes of blood, so much blood, Abby has her epiphany observing cheap, risible CGI of an ultrasound. And that is just so callous. Think about it. It says that this ultrasound risible is laughable. That's what that means, laughable. He says that it's hilarious that this film where a child is fighting for its life and this scene where this baby is seen on this ultrasound, this is laughable to him. Do you see where we're coming from? These people who are pro-abortion activists think it's hilarious that these babies are fighting for their lives. And he says it could be misinterpreted as fear or pain during the procedure. So this little baby that's kicking around fighting for its life in the womb is somehow misinterpreted as actually pain and having fear. Isn't that disgusting? This leftist review that came out on Friday, this is an absolute disgrace to just humanity in general. And to call it black and white as the first one, that's right. This is black and white. You can't be pro-woman, pro-family, and be pro-choice. You just can't. And by dehumanizing these children even further, it just shows what's at stake here and the radicalism that's happening behind these liberal outlets like The Guardian and like Variety. And here it says, this movie, it's enough to make anyone turn to a higher power just to get this movie to end. Really? Really? It's enough to turn to a higher power just to get this movie to end. Now that's cold. That's cold. These people are cold, disgusting people. Really, think about it. Think about it. So he goes on to say, but no, diabolical modernity forces Abby to choose career and political correctness, which means her father and husband must have to sit there like beta male cucks. So the profane and despicable review that I'm holding here, it says that this movie is anti-woman because Abby has a father and a husband who actually are very caring. They're pro-life, but they're caring, and her husband stays with her throughout this whole time that she's working at Planned Parenthood. Abby Johnson at Planned Parenthood, he stays with her and very supportive, very supportive. So then it says that the evil men are the ones that are the stars of this film. That's what this says here. Right here, it says, men swoop in to the rescue for Abby, her husband, the leader of the prayer group that shames women from the sidewalk, and a lawyer who protects Abby from her evil ex-boss when Planned Parenthood accuses her of spreading misinformation. So it says that Abby is useless, essentially, and saying that women can't do anything because this film has men that help in the background. And nowhere does it say that Sean, I forget his last name, he's the one that helped Abby from 40 Days for Life. It doesn't mention that Abby's wife is the one who's been talking to her across the fence to Abby the entire film. She's the one who really led the charge, but it never talks about that. It only talks about the evil men that help make this victory possible, and that's just untrue. It's actually very disgusting that they even published this trash, and the problem with this is that it really doesn't even focus on the strong women that are behind the scenes in this movie. And I would also make the case that both these failures of reviews, these are both made by men. These are the leading reviews that were published on Friday, today, for this review, and these showcase what's wrong with Hollywood. They don't care about women. They care about making money, and making money means getting money from Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood means that they need to spread their lies with The Guardian and with Variety. So there we go. And I will also show you another review that's actually very good. And this is from the Federalist. And there's some good snippets here, and it talks about the movie with Abby Johnson, and it says, Johnson's clinic is in the movie, and it is incredibly different. Clean, brightly lit, staffed by women in matched scrubs behind desks, and it's opposite of the conditions Gosnell operated in, like the movie that we were talking about, that disgusting movie. Yet, for the babies inside their mothers, the end result was exactly the same. Death. And it's important to note that. Whether an abortion happens behind closed doors at some off-site clinic that's dark and dimly lit versus a very clean-looking clinic that, like the one portrayed in the film, the truth is still the same. A baby dies. That's what happens. A baby dies. No matter if it looks beautiful or not, a baby dies. And that's the inconvenient truth of it all. This Federalist also talks about that Unplanned doesn't pull any punches. While it leaves you raw and aching at points, this ache also renews the desire to engage and hope that this is the generation that sees the end of this hurt. And I agree. During that film, it was very sad. I don't think there was ever one dry eye in that film at certain times when I went to see it earlier this week, where there was a few members of Congress there, and there was people from the audience, and you really saw that this film is not about propaganda. This is not some propaganda film. If it were supposed to be that, then it would be that. But this film literally just shows what happens. What happens behind the scenes at Planned Parenthood. And the truth of it all, this film, she was sued. Abby Johnson was sued after she left Planned Parenthood, and she won her case. She won her case despite all the millions of dollars that Planned Parenthood threw and plummeted at this legal battle. She still came out victorious. That's important. And we also need to make sure that we look at Abby Johnson as a model for hope, for prosperity, for the future. And it's very important that we ensure that we are all looking to the cause, looking all to the future, and what are we really looking for in the pro-life movement? We are caring for life. We care about people, and we want to make sure that all people know the truth, that abortion is not health care. It is not ever safe, legal, and rare, as Planned Parenthood says it wants. And at the end of the day, when we have to look at the women's lives that it's hurt throughout decades of heartache, death, destruction, and sadness, we understand that abortion is the largest crime that's ever been committed since other things like the Holocaust or like slavery. And these precious little babies, these babies that are growing and trying to fight to be human beings outside of the womb, just like me and many of you, we need to take their choices and their baby bodies into account. And think about, we all were once a tiny little baby in our mother's womb, small and helpless, and because of the grace of God, we were able to come out, and instead of being murdered before, we were able to have a life that our mother provided for us because she did not make this ghastly choice to kill us in utero. So thank you all so much for going out this weekend, going to see Unplanned. It's a super important film, and I recommend it wholeheartedly for anyone. Please take your friends. I'm going to see it as well, and even this week, go see it, go tell your friends about it, post on social media about it. This is important, and we need to make sure that everyone gets to see this super important film. Thank you all so much, and have an awesome day.